friends. My name is Andre, and you're tuned into the Esoteric Inquirer. Thanks for taking the time to join me on my quest today, and I'm happy to join you in yours as well. Today I want to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart, astrology. So these days when people say that word, usually what conjures up in the mind is a short, about a paragraph long horoscope about your sun sign and just kind of a basic surface aspect of one placement in your chart. And the kind of astrology that I want to go into is the holistic version of astrology, as in actual astrology. You take into consideration all your chart placements, where they're located in the houses and the signs and the aspects, because all those things form the powers of our consciousness. And forming the powers of our consciousness, they interact with each other in certain ways. Some ways may be, pleasant, helpful. In other ways may be a little challenging, dynamic, as they would say. And in that, I also want to talk about how astrology doesn't have, it does have a very effective way to predict, perhaps we could use that word, certain events that may transpire in our lives. And that is very true. But I want to talk about its therapeutic potential. So in looking at the therapeutic potential of astrology, we find that when we look at a chart, when we look at our chart, we find positive aspects, positive placements, and negative aspects, negative placements, negative, dynamic, challenging, as they would say. I don't like using that word like negative, because we can do we can frame it lots of ways and say that things are negative, but lots of times negative things have a way of being of help to us, of giving us certain experiences that we can use to further ourselves and understand ourselves. And that being said, the therapeutic potential of astrology is looking at your chart, seeing the gifts that we have because of our placements, like some trines, some sextiles, a planet placed in a sign that it's exalted in, or that it's in domicile, and then we have those negative placements, and finding those negative placements, we can be like, oh wow, I'm this way because I interact with things this way, like my drive, my assertiveness, to use keywords of a planet, are maybe hindered because of my emotional changeability, or my need to expand for knowledge, my need to search and gain positive experiences is accentuated by a need to probe very deeply into many facets of life and how life works and how it's done. We can understand those things about ourselves by looking at our chart. Or, maybe we did understand those things about ourselves and we are finding some kind of confirmation in them. And in having that concrete confirmation, we are able to ascertain where we need work and where we already are doing pretty well. And I don't believe in saying like, oh, I'm really critical and picky and all this stuff because I'm a Virgo. That's just the way I am, sorry. Nothing we can do about it. No. There is a couple of sayings by the Chaldeans, says, the stars impel, but they do not compel. Right? They impel, but they do not compel. So that says like, we may be influenced, but we're not compelled to do anything. If we do something, that's on us. Another one that I particularly like is, a wise man rules his stars and a fool is ruled by them. Kind of going back to the same point of like, we have a say. we have a personal power of free will as human beings to make conscious decisions, or maybe unconscious decisions, because that tends to happen. Our free will directs us, and we are able to act accordingly to our free will. So on those sayings about, like, wise man manipulates the stars, fool is ruled by them. Someone that I really enjoy, he's long past, probably about 500 or 600 years ago. His name is Paracelsus. On this he says, it is said that a wise man rules over the stars, but this does not mean that he rules over the influences which come from the stars in the sky, but that he rules over the powers which exist in his own constitution. And that is a very deeply meaningful phrase, because that brings to consideration the concept, the axiom, the saying, or the tenet, as above, so below, as within, so without. That's a real thing. I can tell you, astrology is a science of correspondence, and that's what that is. That's what that means. As above, so below means that as things work with us, they work in the heavens, right? Things work within us. And that is, I feel like that's a really nice summation, I guess, of the fact that we as human beings are walking, living, breathing constellations. Because the zodiac and the signs reflect themselves in our physical body. It's wild, right? So Aries rules the head, Taurus rules the the ears, throat, mouth, nose. Gemini rules the nervous system, the hands, the lungs, shoulders. Cancer is the breast, chest, stomach, esophagus, womb. Leo is the heart, the spine, solar plexus. Some would say that that's attributed to Virgo, but it has solar in the name, so for the sake of that, just say it rules solar plexus, perhaps. The sign of Virgo rules the gut brain, also has partial rulership of the solar plexus, the pancreas, and the intestines. Libra rules the kidneys, the pelvic bone, and the hips. Scorpio rules the loins, the reproductive organs, sex organs, and the anus as well. Rectum, whatever word you prefer. Let's be mature, guys. Come on. Moving on to Sagittarius, rules the biceps and the quads, the large parts of the arms and the legs, locomotion. Capricorn rules the joints, knees, the bony parts, pointy. Aquarius rules the ankles, the femurs, and the forearms. I believe the calves and shins. I don't know about that last part, but we're all learning. We're always learning. And finally, Pisces rules the feet and the lymphatic system, and also is said to rule over the hands by some astrologers that I respect. So not only does the zodiac reflect itself in every single physical part of our body, it also rules over our organs and our our inner workings as much as our outer workings. So there's a solar system inside of us, like the heart is the sun of the body. Without the heart, nothing lives, nothing can breathe, nothing can survive. Just like without the sun, without the light of the sun, we would not be alive. Plain and simple, very simple, really. So yeah, that just blows my mind every time. We are walking, living, breathing constellations, and I think it's also worthy to note that the atoms that make up our body are like aside from, Earth. It's also stardust. We're made of stars. We're made of, you know, every single thing in the universe is within us in the form of atoms, in the form of chemical compounds. That's another video for another time, but yeah, amazing. It always amazes me. So with astrology, our lives, I guess for me personally, I kind of see with astrology that my life is a personal quest. Kind of like those, I don't know if anyone watching this plays RPGs or like reads those kind of books about the wizards and the warriors and the paladins and the rogues and the bards and the clerics and the monks and all that stuff. We're born with a certain build out, I guess you could say. And the way we invest our skills and grow and cultivate our skills and where we upgrade and level ourselves up, those areas matter. Those are areas of life. And just like those characters that you got to customize their appearance, you got to customize how they act, what they do, how they approach things. That's us. Like, life is just a huge RPG. You make decisions that affect, not just yourself, but many people around you. You can make good decisions. You can make not so good decisions. So we have certain strengths and weaknesses, just like all those characters. I don't mean to be harsh when I say weakness, but I'm a person. Whoever's watching this is probably also a person. So being a person, we know that we have these areas that we need to work on. If we're being totally honest with ourselves, because we're not all perfect, and all these areas can be focused on and worked on and found with astrology, with the analysis of our own personal mandala, which is our natal chart. And if you guys don't know how to find your natal chart or how to erect your natal chart, back in the day they used to do it by hand. Excuse me. Now, thankfully, with the help of technology, we can do it by going to a website, putting in our birth information, and it'll pull up a chart. The website that I prefer to use is called Astrodientist. So that's ASTRODIENNTIST, astrodientist.com. So to bring up your personal natal chart, you will need your birthday, obviously, and to be able to find your ascendant and moon sign, extremely, extremely important parts of your chart, you will need to know your time and place of birth. Your time and place of birth. It will ask you for that. If you don't have your time and place of birth, it'll give you a chart that starts with the first house in Aries, and with 12th house ending in Pisces. And there are some people that have their charts like that, but it's very, very likely that your chart will not be that way. The house configuration, is unique to you. All those things matter. So yeah, time and place of birth, birthday, obviously, and plug that into astrodientist.com. And once you do that, you will be looking at your own personal mandala. Your own personal mandala. So cool. Because the analysis of a mandala is a meditative, concentrative image, discipline. And when we analyze mandalas, we peer into the nature of our soul, which is what the chart is. People are like, oh, a certain planet rules the soul, and all. And I don't think that's true either. I think the whole chart is your soul. The lessons that we need to understand, lessons that we've already understood, they're all there. They're all there right in front of us. And through careful analysis, we can start further understanding ourselves, further understanding what makes us tick, our unconscious and conscious needs and desires. Because the signs and the planets are powers of consciousness, powers of our consciousness, because we as humans have a very special consciousness. You know, we have the ability to discern, to reason, to think, to communicate eloquently, not just for needs of survival. We aspire towards goals. We think on deep meanings of philosophy and life. We nurture. We love. Those things are very special and very unique. So once we have our chart, the way I started learning astrology, guys, it's pretty easy. You know, I memorized like what the glyphs of the planets are, you know, where they're located in the chart. So like, for example, I have Sun in Virgo. So I just typed in to Google or whatever search engine you want to use, Sun in Virgo. And you're going to get a bunch of results that pop up. Just read through those. Start understanding the properties, the way that the planet expresses itself in a certain sign. And through doing that, you will slowly but surely, or maybe quickly but surely, understand what makes you tick. Wow. So wonderful, right? So once we like start understanding that, we see that we too, just like all those, you know, action heroes and warriors and paladins and monks and, you know, hunters that we read about, we can also have status effects. You know, like we can be poisoned, confused, hexed. We can find talismans and elixirs of healing. We can understand ourselves in finding those pearls of wisdom that we experience, that we come into contact with through life, through our own personal experiences. So, having said that, when we start finding out all these things about ourselves and why we are the way we are, what will we decide to do? Will we be like, oh, well, this is I'm this way because, you know, I have this planet in this sign aspected by this other planet, you know? Or we'll be like, you know, I am this way because of patterns that have instilled themselves in my life and in my subconscious. But what will I do? Will I make a change about that? Will I make a conscious effort using my own free will to stop that cycle? You know, stop that samsara, as the Buddhists say, that cycle of continuation that's been ingrained in our psyche. We can do that, friends. It's very possible. It's wonderful. It's a benchmark of human achievement to be able to understand ourselves and love ourselves enough to make those conscious improvements towards being a better person, a better friend, a better brother or sister, a better husband or wife. Astrology can help you do that.